The Man of Steel, along with the rest of the world, has fallen into Insomnia's nightmare. What personal hell awaits Clark Kent? Well, let's hop into the pages of Night Terror's Superman issue number 1 and find out what happens next together, shall we? So that as we join this issue, we actually pick up not long after the events of Night Terror's First Blood issue number 1. If you'll recall, Superman had left the rest of the Trinity behind to return to Metropolis and Supercorp in hopes of using their advanced technology to track any changes between the barrier between the prime material world and the world of dreams. Unfortunately though, Superman didn't actually manage to make it back in time before he ended up getting enveloped by Insomnia's nightmare wave, which put him and the rest of the world to sleep, trapping them in their own worst nightmares. And what exactly is Superman's worst nightmare? Well, it starts off simply enough. He's once again working at the Daily Planet, though everything has much more of a golden age 50s bent to it. Clark is shocked and surprised when Perry White comes on out with the newest headline. Apparently the world is saved, all crime has been defeated forever, and it wouldn't be possible without the help of Lex Luthor. Which I guess as far as twists go makes a little sense. Obviously this would be on Superman's mind, as in the main Superman book, Clark and Lex have been working closer together than ever before. And of course, if you've been reading Superman for as long as I have, you'll know that this isn't the Man of Steel's first rodeo when it comes to an evil villain trying to show him his worst dreams. In fact, he actively invokes the famous Black Mercy storyline, before eventually Insomnia just decides to give up the ghost completely and reveal himself to Superman. Seriously, is this how all of these tie-ins are gonna work, with the heroes just invoking other times stuff like this happened, and completely sandbagging Insomnia and his attempts at psychological horror? Because it feels like this just keeps happening over and over again. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the heroes are smart, and that they're actually stating precedent for once, but seriously, it's really hard to get lost in this mind-bending horror narrative when the horror never really gets a chance to start. Now, as with everyone else, Insomnia's demands remain the same. He wants access to the Nightmare Stone, and he believes that the heroes of the DC Universe know where Dr. Destiny hid it. Of course, Superman is only hearing about it now, so obviously he has no idea where it is, and because of that, Insomnia knows he's going to be no help to him. And in his rage, Insomnia does what we saw him do to Batman in that time, as well as several others, and that is he decides to go deeper into Superman's subconscious, and it's there he ends up finding his own personal monster. A creature called the Man of Screams, the grand culmination, apparently, of all of Clark's deepest, darkest fears. Specifically, 2 fears. One, that Superman, being this godlike character that he is, he will eventually outlive everyone he's ever loved or cared about on planet Earth. And secondly, that Superman is actually some sort of harbinger of death. He was unable to save Krypton, and there may come a day when he is unable to save Earth in the very same way. Again, much like the Batman tie-in from a couple weeks ago, I'm not exactly going to give you any points for originality on this one, but I suppose if Superman was to fear anything, those are 2 pretty good character-specific things to fear. It's just that in this instance, it doesn't make for all that much of a compelling story. Thankfully, though, the latter part of this issue actually does take some rather unexpected twists and turns. You see, Kara the Supergirl actually ends up punching her way into Superman's nightmare. You see, she was actually trapped in an admittedly much more interesting sounding story wherein she was hounded by zombified versions of herself from the past, and let's face it, there has been so many different versions of Supergirl over the years. And I mean, if Superboy Prime could punch the walls of reality so hard he could actually bring the dead back to life, then it reasons that Supergirl could also punch the walls of reality so hard she could go from one dream world to another. Superman and Supergirl vow to team up and get to the bottom of all of this Insomnia stuff, when we actually end up surprisingly cutting out to the real world, where we see that Superman's body has washed up on a beach somewhere. Normally this would probably be a pretty dangerous situation to be in, but thankfully Aquaman and his assorted family of characters are there to help Clark out. Yeah, for some reason Aquaman and the Atlanteans are unaffected by the nightmare wave, and if you want to know why, I guess we're all gonna have to pick up the next issue, aren't we? And so that was Night Terror's Superman issue number 1, everybody, and much like Batman and all the other Night Terror's tie-ins I've read so far, this was perfectly serviceable, but not exactly something that knocked my socks off or something that I'm gonna recommend super hard. We've just seen Superman in these sorts of face your worst fear type of stories so much, so often, and Night Terrors doesn't exactly bring anything new to the formula. Well, except for the Man of Screams, who, yeah, interesting enough design, but not really enough to hang a whole issue on. For what it's worth, though, I will say this story actually does get a lot more interesting in the latter half, mainly because we now know super people can punch their way into other dream worlds. And maybe I'm just a total nerd, but I would love to hear the reasoning as to why Aquaman and the Atlanteans are seemingly unaffected by the nightmare wave? Is it because they're too deep underwater for it to reach? Is it because fish people don't sleep like normal people? Is it because of Atlantean magic? I don't know, but for what it's worth, it's definitely enough to make me want to pick up the next issue. Overall, I would give this one a 6 out of 10. Not particularly bad, not particularly great either, just kinda middle of the road. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.